As with all of our lists, we limit our picks to only 2 entries per franchise. We do not include remasters or ports because they already had their time. However, remakes are fair game. DLC will be discussed if available, but will not influence slot placement. Also, if we have not played a game, we can't evaluate it fairly, so if we left out your favorite game, that's probably why. The 7th generation of gaming was not the best time to be a Sony fan. At first, the PlayStation 3 had a very rough launch, but it came into its own and came back with a vengeance later on in its life. It started with this enormous price tag, and then later on it actually got some good games and lowered in price, so people were like, you know what, yeah, PlayStation 3 is where it's at. And these are the top 10 PlayStation 3 games. If you had a PlayStation 3, you played these, and they were amazing. Kicking off our list is the game that is one of my favorite horror games. It is just an outstandingly well done and well crafted atmosphere. Dead Space 2 is horrifying, and it took everything about the first one, like added in some action-y elements and upped the horror in some areas, and it was just an amazing game, one of my favorite games, and it was just so much fun to, you know, just chop limbs off necromorphs and, you know, go in the nursery and see those exploding babies. But Isaac Clarke's story, like, had a great follow-up with Dead Space 2, and it was just an amazingly fun and scary game.
One of the best licensed games that has ever come out. Transformers War for Cybertron was just so amazing.
God, it was.
The story was good, the graphics were excellent, and I mean the multiplayer was fun too.
Yeah.
A lot of games that have the slept-on multiplayer, it doesn't always work.
It was just a Gen 1 fan's just wet dream.
Oh yeah.
It was so packed full of references and Easter eggs to Generation 1, and even I don't know if it's still technically considered a prequel or whatever, but it was ridiculously tied into everything, and they did a fantastic job.
The credits were amazing too.
Yeah.
Just had that awesome Transformers song and
yeah, you could tell High Moon Studios just absolutely loved Transformers and crafted the best thing they could. Media Molecule took a simple concept and made something extraordinary out of it. Little Big Planet just brought everything to the table. They made a game, but they also gave you all the tools needed to make your own levels.
Yeah.
Make your own creatures. Do anything you wanted to do. It was a great platformer, first of all. And it was just so packed full of charm and wonder that, I mean, it was just fantastic. And you will never be able to play every level that was made by creators on that game.
you literally can't. Like,
No, it's not
you
possible.
would have to play to the end of time and beyond to do that. Like, there is so much user-created content on Little Big Planet, and most of it is actually like really well done because the creation engine they used, or whatever you call it, just has so much like capabilities, and it's so well done that it's hard to just like crap out a level. Like, every level had some good aspect to it.
Well, we talked about War for Cybertron being one of the best licensed games. The best licensed game ever made, and the best superhero game ever made, in my opinion, is Batman Arkham Asylum. A lot of people prefer Arkham City. That seems to be the general consensus, is Arkham City is the better one. And Arkham City is fantastic. I prefer Arkham Asylum's more closed off.
Yeah, I thought it worked a lot better.
It was
just
almost
being Arkham Asylum instead of an entire city. It almost felt like
it was more claustrophobic.
Yeah,
it was just like
like it added to the atmosphere of the game.
Focused.
Yeah,
it was concentrated and just amazing.
It was still big. It was still
it really was.
Maybe not by today's standards, but it was still pretty big. and there was a lot to find, but not like 700 whatever. I mean, I don't think Arkham City had 700, but it was a lot. I liked how focused and claustrophobic Arkham Asylum felt way more. Batman, up to this point, his only good games were side-scrollers.
Yeah.
That's the Cape Crusader deserves better. And Batman Arkham Asylum delivered, that whole series pretty much delivered the only games to date that made you feel like you were the Dark Knight. One of the biggest franchises for Sony is God of War. They came out with God of War 3 and completely obliterated God of War 1 and 2. Because, like, the scale on its own was just something basically unprecedented. Riding on the back of a Titan up Mount Olympus to destroy the gods. It was amazing. And coming off that cliffhanger right after God of War 2, just riding up Mount Olympus to kill him. It was one of my favorite intro levels of all time, and had an epic boss fight with Poseidon. The whole game's full of epic boss fights. You're killing the gods.
Yeah, that's like you are wiping out all of like the Greek pantheon.
Yeah, except Aphrodite. She just got a little got lucky. But everyone else had to go. Like, if you play God of War, you know how brutal and horrible it is, but nothing compares to Helios getting his head ripped off by Kratos with his bare hands. You see every piece of skin as it's leaving his body. It's just so gross and ridiculous, and it just completely just summarizes everything you can say about God of War in one scene.
The PlayStation 3 launched one of Sony's best franchises with the action-adventure, just classic Uncharted. But Uncharted 2 did everything Uncharted 1 did, but way better. I mean, that train sequence was absolutely enthralling and incredible. Hunting down the Chintamani Stone in Shangri-La was amazing. And it was just... The museum heist was really fun.
Yes.
And arguably, it's the best Uncharted game out there.
I don't even think that's arguable. I think it's a fact.
Well, a lot of people really liked Uncharted 4, but Uncharted 2, like, actually doesn't make sense on paper why it would be so good, because Sully's not in it near as much.
Yeah.
But
that's a big negative.
The villain is really, really well done, and just... everything in this game is outstanding. The final battle is actually like really good, and it just ups the action, ups the adventure, ups the platforming, it upped everything. And Uncharted 2 is without a doubt one of the best games of all time, let alone on the PlayStation 3.
One of the greatest trilogies in all of video game history would have to be the Mass Effect trilogy. You crafted your story from day one. I mean, you know, it was basically good and evil choices, but I mean, it affected things. From day one, you're just making your own Shepard, your own story. But when we're talking about Mass Effect, the only one we can really put on this list over the other two is Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 was the Terminator 2 of the Mass Effect series. Like, you know, Mass Effect 1 was great, but Mass Effect 2 just came out of the gate and blew everything that Mass Effect 1 did out of the water. And it has some of the best characters and party members and everything. The great story. Everything about Mass Effect 2 is fantastic. If you haven't played the Mass Effect trilogy, go do it now.
In my opinion, one of the best games that has ever been made. BioShock just set the standard for what the current generation games could be. It was so creepy and atmospheric. The underwater effects were great.
Yeah.
You had the atom slugs that they made plasmids out of, and you know, it was like a drug, so people got addicted, and then they turned into monster people.
And we were talking about Arkham Asylum being claustrophobic. Good God.
Yeah. Not to mention, the Big Daddies are just so iconic and horrifying. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
like Big
Anytime they
Daddy's-
turn red, you better run.
Yeah. And the little sisters were so adorably creepy, and I just couldn't get over, like, I never could sacrifice one. I just felt bad. Like, I always did the good choice because it just felt wrong to me. But,
It should.
and especially for a first-person shooter, it had a fantastic story. Way better than I expected it to have. And one of the best plot twists in video games, period. It caught me so off guard. If this game somehow slipped under your radar, would you kindly go play it?
One of my favorite games of all time, and arguably one of the most emotional games you could play on the PlayStation 3. Came in late to the game,
Any system.
but The Last of Us is just very close to perfection. It makes you cry right from the start,
Oh, yeah.
and then you just play as Joel. He's just this, like, grizzled, badass smuggler, and then ends up developing a heart of gold for this fake, non-infectable daughter of his.
I wouldn't say a heart of gold.
Yeah.
He's kind of a bastard.
His heart's in the right place for
Oh, yeah.
the people he cares about. If he doesn't care about you, you're dead,
And like,
basically.
Troy Baker delivered, in my opinion, the greatest performance video games have ever seen with Joel.
Yeah.
Yes, like, I mean, it almost seemed like the gameplay parts, you were just trying to get past them to see the cutscenes almost.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the gameplay is still really fun, and the clickers are really horrifying and
Well,
suspenseful, and one of the best horror enemies ever invented. But the whole relationship between Joel and Ellie, I just can't talk enough about how amazing it is. And Last of Us is a must-play for any gaming fan, especially the ones, if you still claim video games aren't art, play this scene, watch that giraffe part, and try not to tear up and tell me video games aren't art.
Speaking of cutscenes, if this game did not set the world record for cutscene length and amount, I don't know what the hell beat it. Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots is so full of cutscenes. Like, the ending cutscene is like 75 minutes long or something.
Just
the end cutscene. There's more. There's a lot more. But it's fine because
it's
there might have.
amazing.
It's so fantastic. The story was just balls to the wall insane. Finally, continue for Metal Gear Solid 2, because right after Metal Gear Solid 2, we get a prequel after that cliffhanger, and Snake is old as dirt, Liquid's old as dirt, and Ocelot for reasons, and finally this rivalry comes to a head. So many plot lines wrapped up. I can't think of a plot line that left open, really. Like, it wrapped everything up so beautifully. The story of Solid Snake finally came to a close. That man deserved his rest after all he's been through. In my opinion, this is the game of that generation. My favorite console of that generation was Xbox 360 overall, but Metal Gear Solid 4 was the game of that generation, in my opinion. I went and bought a PS3 when they were still $600 for Metal Gear Solid 4. It's so awesome.
Hey, thanks for watching. Did you like the video? Why don't you hit that like and subscribe button? It really helps us grow the channel. And don't forget to ring that bell to join our notification squad. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I put the links in the description just to make it easier for you to get to. And we will catch you next time for the next video from the Bro Trio.